Thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome, ministers. My question is about labour mobility, recognition of workers' credentials. So are you expecting to have more mutual recognition between provinces of credentials, or do you see standardization of certification happening? And I ask that in the context of, this is a federal law. Are there limitations about what you can do? And is this more symbolic, and you're trying to set the table for what you expect the provinces to do, if I can use the Prime Minister's term, catalyze action in this area?
Minister.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Senator Cardozo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Our question is a good one. Nothing in this legislation impacts the jurisdiction of provinces and territories. I think that's also a fundamental thing that, ça va sans le dire, but we should say.
It goes without saying.
Ambiguity in that regard. And the example you properly used, and I know you've studied this issue yourself in a policy context, mutual recognition in many of the examples that Canadians think about is properly in the hands of provinces and territories. So, and I know, not to duck, but in her fulsome answers yesterday, I'm sure that my colleague, Chrystia Freeland, who has the carriage of the responsibility, not to duck the question, I'm happy to answer it, but she has been drilling down with provinces and territories on this issue of mutual recognition. We wanted to start by bringing the Government of Canada to the conversation with the cleanest hands we can. So we had, for example, the Deputy Clerk and I, before we came here, were talking about, if you're a land surveyor in the province of New Brunswick, and you were doing, this may have been, Chrystia used this example yesterday, so Chris Fox is cheating, giving it to two of us. But there are examples where the Government of Canada had regulatory requirements that don't make sense and were in fact barriers to that labor mobility. If a land surveyor in our province of New Brunswick is working on a military base or doing a project under federal jurisdiction, if they're a certified land surveyor in Nova Scotia, I'd be quite happy to see them working on a project in Manitoba. And there are other examples. We're trying to, I want to be careful because it's not at all, in a patronizing way, the Government of Canada is not playing big brother to the provinces. The provinces are leading themselves by example in this area. And the provinces are sort of coming together, one with the other, and in small regional groups, and saying, hey, we're prepared right away. The province of Alberta has been a leader in this space. Former Premier Jason Kenney was doing great work. Premier Palliser of Manitoba. Some premiers, former premiers, have been leading this conversation. Premier of Nova Scotia has been a great leader in this regard. In terms of saying to their other First Minister colleagues, how can we collectively do that work? And the Government of Canada wants to enable it in the sense we don't have federal barriers. Catalyze is a good word, but I'm encouraged by their desire to do that work themselves in a very effective way.
Can I ask, since you're also the lead minister in terms of Canada-U.S. relations, do you see this act as being something where you're sort of arming ourselves against the United States, or is it sort of separate because of the tariff threats? We're getting our house in order in a different way because we can't trust working with them anymore.
Yeah, you've used big arming ourselves against the United States is not the phrase I would have used. You used that word, Senator. But I take your point entirely. We think that this legislation is part of Canada's response to the economic uncertainty created by President Trump's tariffs. It's having a direct, I exchanged messages with Premier Ford today. Imagine what it means for the steel industry in his province and right across the country. That economic uncertainty is affecting workers and businesses in an acute way every day, and in some sectors it's getting worse day over day. So this is part of a united Canada's response to giving ourselves the economic instruments to grow our economy, diversify our trade, and inspire Canadians to build big nation projects in the national interest. So it's part of an answer, but Canadians are coming up with all kinds of very inspiring ways of how we can meet the challenge of an unreliable trading partner with the United States. This is our government's clearly stated objective in the election campaign as part of the response, but we continue to look at other ways that we can make the economy more resilient. I wouldn't want to cut off Senator Kuzner's time, Mr. Chair. I know everybody's been looking forward to that, so I'll stop speaking now and we'll let Roger have a run here.